Welcome to another episode of Monthly Review. This one is the last one in 2022. We're talking about December 2022's releases and what a month this one was. Let's check some of the best releases of December 2022. Best of December 2022. So, this month was all about great music, actually loads of awesome music, so I am a bit on the fence about what to talk about and what not to talk about, but eventually all songs, or mostly, I would say most of the CDs released in December 2022 will eventually find their way on the website as written reviews. So if I do not talk about those in this episode, I will be talking about those on the website. So do look forward to those reviews. As it is, I've picked 3 CDs. You already know one of those that I will be talking about quite extensively in this episode. It is Soma Saito's Yin Yang, but I'm not going to start from there. I'm going to start with ZOOL's Zenit. Now, I hadn't checked Never Lose My Rule prior to actually even checking these CDs, so I had to review both actually following each other. So I had to review the single to celebrate their anniversary, and then I had to review Zenit. And this was actually a really interesting exercise because what we get in Never Lose My Rule is not even what we get in Zenit. Zenit is a mini concept album, which is weird and actually something really new for the group, not necessarily the franchise. Another concept album that was really impressive was Trigger's variant, but that's a different thing. So in this case, this specific case, I reviewed Zenit, and I was not expecting anything that is in that CD, which is to say, that could have gone really wrong for me, but actually, the songs are really good, and after reviewing the CD, I can already say that I have 2 favorite songs in that release. One of those is Insomnia. That song hasn't left my head since I listened to it, so I'm still basking on the fact that they actually performed nu disco with R&B and a little bit of hip-hop on top, and it was perfect. And having, surprisingly leading the way, Kotaro Nishiyama, which is... it's amazing. He has a really breathy style of singing that I do enjoy a whole lot. He's not considered usually a good singer or a fantastic singer, but I do enjoy his singing style a whole lot because it's not easy to pull off. And he's a really smart singer in the way that he only does what he knows that he can pull off, which is something that most seiyuu, or there are some seiyuu that should really take a lesson or two from him in that respect. But still, Kotaro Nishiyama led the way in Insomnia, and that song is so good. This is a really good song. It is an instant favorite of mine. This is my favorite song in this CD, for sure. But actually, there is another song that stood out for me, and I need to check the name because there's a lot of music that I have reviewed today. Riding. Who would have thunk that the group would release funk disco music by ZOOL, and it is great. It is not cheesy at all, much in the likes of what Trigger has been doing, or even what Rivale has been doing. It's not cheesy at all, it fits the group, although it's a big detour from what ZOOL is all about. But it is a really nice change of pace for them. It shows that the group can do it all, and especially on the vocal end. Usually people are so focused on the fact that Subaru Kimura is such a good rapper that they forget that he's actually an even better singer. And he shows that in this performance. Actually, everyone is showing their best in this performance. Even Takashi Kondo, that usually goes unnoticed in most songs, is shining a whole lot in this performance. So do check these these two songs especially, I will say, Insomnia and Riding, but the whole mini concept album is amazing. It's not anything like what ZOOL has released before, so if you are thinking about Einsatz, this is nothing like it. This is completely different from Einsatz. A big reason why I enjoyed this CD a whole lot, and Einsatz I can only listen to 3-4 songs maximum in that CD. The other songs are passable, to say the least. So this is a massive upgrade for ZOOL. It is quite interesting to see that the CD in itself is actually a sort of display of the personalities within the group, for songs, for personalities, for singers leading the way in each song. Although everyone is singing, you know that there is one singer in each song that has more focus than the others. That's why I said that Insomnia is actually a song that sounds or is more performed by Kotaro Nishiyama than any other member in the group. Riding is actually an oddball for me because, in a way, after reviewing the whole CD, there was only one person left to attribute the song to, but in another way, that song doesn't seem to click that much with the personality of that character, so although I have dubbed that song as a Haruka song, which is to say performed by Yuya Hirose, I'm not really sure if it is really his, or a representation of his personality. But still, the other songs are pretty much spot on with the characters they are representing, or the personalities they are representing. So if this one is actually Haruka's, it's a really awesome reveal of passion and a really awesome groove and vibe going on in there. So, ZOOL's Zenit. It arrived really late, but it is such an awesome CD. So if you do have the time, go check it. It's nothing like what ZOOL has released before. There is rock, there is new disco, there is pop, there is funk, there is a little bit of everything. And on the vocal end, you have performances with R&B styling, pop styling, rap, or even rock styling. So do pay attention to this CD if you can. 4 charms, 4 characters, 4 awesome songs, and a lot to choose from in an awesome and such a compact mini album. So it is a really awesome entry, and one that I dubbed, and I will continue to say, it is the best release by ZOOL up until now. Then we have NSFW's Sora kara Furu Yume. Now, usually A- arrives to wrap up a Dear Vocalist CD collection in the best way. He has yet to fail to do so, and this time around we got an absolutely amazing and cohesive, mind you, cohesive CD by NSFW. So forget that disruptive, chaotic EDM sound. That is no more in this CD. What you get is something really cohesive in tone and really clear in its objectives. So you do not have that unclarity that you had in some songs in which you didn't know necessarily who that song was directed to or what that song was really about. This time around, everything is clear in both songs, so there are no doubts in here. The title track is all about his relationship with his significant other. In this case, you, if you are listening to the drama CDs, this is all about basically reliving fondly the memories that you have spent together and looking forward to many more, and wishing upon a star or wishing upon the sky that many more are in store for you. So it is a really sweet song, it's really cohesive in its tone, the performance is really feels like the character is walking as they are reliving the memories, and everything flows naturally, nothing is rushed in this song, and even the electronica when it arrives during the chorus is not chaotic, it is done with a purpose, and it feels right. So this is a really unique style and a unique take on A-Dash's performances and on NSFW songs, but I do love this new direction. It shows that A- is, especially if you are following the drama CDs, A- is slowly healing and finding a better place for his head, or is in a better place mentally. This should be the way that I should have said this. Is in a better way mentally. And you, as their significant other in this drama CD, are actually helping him, looking forward to more days, better days, even better days than the ones that you are living together. So this is a really sweet and awesome song. Then we have The Mirror House. And this is a song that started a bit circusy, and I will admit, I really dislike anything that has to do with circus or clowns or anything related to circus or to the concept of circus. So as soon as I heard that circusy melody going on, I was a bit on the fence, but actually the song turned out to be okay. And it is really awesome in tone, because it is slow, aggressive, violent, disruptive, but still cohesive, and really cohesive and consistent throughout in its trap hip-hop instrumental. So this is a song that goes really much in the lines of pitch number 102 from last year. It was one of the very best songs of last year. It goes in the same line, although I feel it is even more violent in tone. Although it is much slower than the song that I just mentioned. So it is really interesting to find this song in here, but at the same time, no matter how aggressive or disruptive this song tried to be, it always sounded cohesive and consistent from start to finish. There were no massive drops on highs in the tone, in the voice tone, nor even in the emotions presented. The instrumental, of course, goes through highs and lows, but it makes sense. You have to go through those unless you get an instrumental that is only an intro from start to finish. So you need to have those highs and lows to present the introduction, the verses, the chorus, the intermission, then the bridge, then the outro. So you do have and need those highs and lows. But although you have those, and you do have two unique choruses, mind you, the first chorus is all about trap music, the second chorus is all about rock and rap. So it is really aggressive, it is really intense, it is really dark, which is something that you wouldn't usually say about A-Dash's performances, nor even NSFW's songs. So it is really interesting, the contrast between the sweet beauty of Sora, Furu, Yume, and then The Mirror House, that is all about its dark sound. It is a song that is almost tailored to Halloween, although it was released near Christmas. So it is really interesting. So I invite you to check this song because it's so good, and Ryohei Kimura always delivers the best performances. In my opinion, some of the best performances in the Dear Vocalist franchise are his, so do pay attention to his performance in here, because he's not kidding around, and he's actually playing around a little bit with his vibrato, enough to make it so that you can't put your attention anywhere else unless it is his voice. So do check this song, actually do check the single if you can, NSFW's Sora, Furu, Yume. It is the last entry in the Unlimited CD series in the Dear Vocalist franchise that is now wrapped up. Fans do not know if we are going to get another CD season. I do hope so. So fingers crossed that happens. But at the moment, this is all from the Dear Vocalist franchise in 2022. And hopefully it can open the door for another series in 2023. We actually, at least I speak for myself, I want another CD season from this franchise. Actually many more, but still one step at a time. I need one CD season in 2023 at least. So that's all about that CD, and now the big talk. So if you are not a fan of Soma Saito, I invite you to actually use the markers on or the chapters in this video and skip to the next chapter, because it's going to take a while. This is really going to take a while. So let's talk about Soma Saito's Yin Yang. Now, given how much time I took to review this CD, 7 hours, and I then let the review sleep for a couple of days as I was listening to the CD and trying to understand what was really going on in there. I took almost a week to try to understand the CD. And eventually, I believe I came to something really close to what I believe Soma Saito wanted with this CD. This is a really complex one. I do believe that this is going to be even more niche than In Bloom was. I'm not going to say more niche than My Beautiful Valentine, because that CD actually ended up being well received by fans and getting a really good reception. Although Yin Yang got a good reception, it still felt a bit... I don't know, it was weird, the way that fans were receiving the CD. There was not too much fanfare this time around, maybe because this is the second CD released this year, and actually Saito was active since, let's say it, June, releasing music every month. Even if it was instrumental CDs, it was present, so it wasn't that empty as 2021 was. Actually 2021 didn't have any music from him released. But Yin Yang arrived with a really unique premise of exploring the concept of Yin Yang, although not the concept that is regularly used. So usually you say Yin Yang, it refers to having a good and a bad part, the black and the white part. And your life is usually about having those and having a good balance between both. But Saito actually approached this in a different way. He believes, and he shows throughout the album, although he has split the album, the mini album, in two parts, the yin and the yang, he actually puts a little bit of darkness in the white parts and puts a little bit of light in the dark parts, to show that, or to illustrate that, you have both good and bad within the same person, and it's not interchangeable. You have good and bad parts, and for some people what you do is good, for some other people what you do is bad, and you can't distance yourself from that. That happens, and that is unavoidable, and all the decisions that you make will have good and bad repercussions, and once again you can't avoid those. And that's part of human condition, and that's a big topic in this CD. It's the human condition, and it goes a lot around, even if Saito didn't initially wanted to make the CD about that, and he actually has stated that the CD started as a collection of songs that he put together, and then he found that the theme Yin Yang, or the concept Yin Yang, was good to express the song, what he had in the songs that he had in hand to work with. Even if he said that, I feel like the concept is well worked to the point that everything has to make sense, otherwise the CD wouldn't click or be as complex as it is. You wouldn't do, I believe someone wouldn't do something per chance and make it a CD that is so complex that not many people are actually understanding it, and those that are understanding it are actually spending a lot of time to try to understand it. So there's a lot of thinking behind this CD, although Saito makes it so that in his interviews he's trying to say that he hadn't put much thought into it. So it is interesting, the balance in here, and it is interesting to see what he is saying about the CD and what the CD actually is making people do. So it is interesting in there. That aside, I believe the CD is about human condition. I said that in my extensive review. It's almost 11 pages. An essay, must I say. It is an essay. And I found that the CD was more complex than My Beautiful Valentine, or even In Bloom. And it is because the concept of human condition is more complex than mental health that was going on really strongly in bloom. It's mental health, and it is longing, nostalgia, and it is much more complex than surrealism, although surrealism is much more difficult to pull off music wise. The human condition is more complex, so there's a really interesting balance in here. The CD is difficult to understand. I took a lot of time to understand it, and I consider myself someone that actually can easily or with some ease understand Soma Saito's music, because I have listened to most of the music that has influenced him as an artist, and I actually read a lot of the things that he has read, so I thought I was prepared for this CD, but actually I was not. It was a challenge. So, Yin Yang. It is a visceral CD. It is one that follows only one character, apparently, and if you actually listen to the CD but haven't got the physical edition, I welcome you to actually avoid this part of the conversation until you have that, because I'm going to spoil Saint Obsession, the hidden track in this CD, so a heads up. This CD has only one main character, and it follows, actually, you follow that character from the creation of Paradise in Rakuen to its absolute destruction in Hayano, to the realization that the problem is you in Mirrors, and the mocking on your face by the narrator in this story, Saint Obsession, that is Soma Saito himself. So this is a really interesting journey through what humans can do if they are presented with Paradise all to themselves, to do what they want, how they want, govern themselves as they see fit, and things start to get really weird from there. You have Paradise in Rakuen, you have a really jolly vibe, really naive mindset in Space Trip. Things get a little bit, I should say, weird in Enigma Game, because the person is showing that they are going to use others to get to what they want, and they are going to discard other people as they see fit. So it starts to show the twisted side of humans in there. It's actually the twist in that CD for the young part, and going for that dark side in the CD. And that dark side appears as Kazahana. Kazahana is a song that shows that the person that was living in that paradise actually was sharing it with other people. And as you could do anything you see fit in that paradise, people dispersed. And there was something that was arranged between that character and the one that is missing. But the realization that that character goes through in that song is that, why am I even waiting for that person if I hate them so much? Why? Here, wounded, waiting for them to appear, and they will not appear by any means. They are doing their own thing, and I was the only one that was putting this much effort into this relationship. And here I am, being abandoned and feeling like a fool because I was waiting for them to arrive and they will not arrive. And that's betrayal in there. There's anger and pure hate in that song. Kazahana feels like a really sad song in its tone. Just starting from the way Saito kicks off that song, singing in a cappella, almost, to the way that the whole instrumental progresses. It's actually emo rock through and through, and it's really awesome because of that. But that song is really, really visceral. However, you go to Hayano, so if you are not waiting for anyone, and you are set, you could do as you see fit, govern yourself, set the rules that you want, be your own king. Well, let's do that. And that's pure chaos, it's pure anarchy in that song. It's actually inspired by, and I'm going to check the book that I have right here, Lord of the Flies by William Golding. And if you have read that book, you will know that the story doesn't end up well, or doesn't end well. And that's because of exactly that. People were led to do what they wanted, as they see fit, in a new place, without any adults to govern themselves. The children had to grow up quite fast. They almost turned into animals to basically survive, and that doesn't end up well for many of the characters in that book. So that's the inspiration for Hayano, Lord of the Flies, the literal translation. And that's one of the most exciting rock tunes that Saito has ever created. This is a true, pure rock tune, the purest that Saito has created. It has a little bit of influences by Arctic Monkeys earlier in their career, and Block Party's Helicopter. It's a song that Saito mentions a lot, and he actually managed to pull off something really similar in the guitar work in this performance. So that's a really awesome detail. And of course, as you go from Hayano, you go to Mirrors, and that's the final confrontation that you get to stop a little bit, look yourself in the mirror, and understand that the problem all along was you. You were the one that enjoyed paradise, you were the one that made friends in paradise, you were the one that was abandoned in paradise, you destroyed paradise, you created an anarchy around you. You basically destroyed everything and yourself. And when you arrive in Mirrors, you are not in a good place mentally. You are facing yourself in a mirror and calling the other person in the mirror as a liar, as someone that shouldn't be there. However, you are saying to the mirror that you are okay with pain, that you enjoy it actually, and that you like sadness. He goes on saying kanashimi o kanashimi mo. Kanashimi o, it's the beginning of a sentence. He doesn't end it. And then he says kanashimi mo. So he says and sadness. Sadness and sadness. I love it. That's weird, the way that he structured that sentence or that part in the lyrics, because he's leaving something open purposely for you to fill in, and he makes it so that the hit when you get to the chorus is much bigger than if he had fill in the gaps in there. What is actually adding to that sadness? If he starts the sentence by saying sadness, and then he leaves it blank, and then he says and sadness, so there's something and something, but there's something missing in between sadness and sadness. That he says that he loves it, and then he calls the one in the mirror a liar, so he's calling himself a liar. So that's an inner conflict of someone that may have a personality disorder, for example, or may have, I should say, imposter syndrome. There's another angle for you to actually approach in this song. I believe no one knows which is the correct angle to approach this song, unless you are Soma Saito. Once again, big fan. But this is a really, really complex song that you are entering the psyche of that main character, that up until now you didn't know necessarily that the main character was you all along. It is you all along. And that is weird. it feels weird. And Mirrors starts as a whisper in the wind, to many voices in the background, to a voice that you want to kill off, and then only your voice, which is to say only silence when you wrap up that song. It is visceral, and that's a big reason why this song has been such a hit within the fandom, and even outside of the fan base it is a hit with people that actually enjoy these kinds of songs that play a little bit around with the psyche of someone, but do so in the right way, should I say it, because you can talk about something that has to do with someone's psyche and not be tasteful and not be mindful of the way that you are approaching it. But Saito does it really well and makes it so that you can understand the pain they are going through, and you want to help that character overcoming that pain in some way, and then you listen to the song and you get to know more about the story, and you know what has happened, the choice that was made when that song wraps up. It is, I should say, it's really, really sad. But then comes the song that ticks everyone off, and now you can skip this part if you haven't listened to the bonus track. It's Saint Obsession. As one of the jolliest, annoying and mocking tones in a song that I've ever heard, and it is done on purpose to make you feel like a fool. It is a weird way, or a weird thing that Saito has more than ever bet a whole lot on humor, and is making a lot of interesting choices in the way that he uses humor, not necessarily to make a really bubbly type of CD, but it makes it so that you will be annoyed at something and you will be laughing at what you are feeling in that moment, because you were being played all along. You were left in that paradise that was starting over from another cycle of paradise that was destroyed. You are taking over in there, you are doing your things, you destroy it, you ultimately come to a conclusion that the fault was yours, you confront yourself, you make your choice, whichever choice it was, that you feel like has happened in Mirrors, and then you arrive to Saint Obsession, that is actually looking for gasoline to set fire to that destruction that you made, to his paradise, to start over again, basically. He wants to set fire to the piles of trash with flies on top. He wants to set fire to the rotten people in there. Rotten, you can approach it in the way that he has approached the dead people, but you can always see the underlying meaning that he has in there, that is the people that are rotten to the core, their personalities are rotten to the core, and he's actually wanting, as the saint, to burn everything and start again, to see if the next cycle is actually a good one in which people do not destroy the paradise that he creates. It's a really, really interesting approach. I do not know if it was actually meant to be like this, or if it was meant to be interpreted like this, but that's my interpretation. At least you arrive at paradise, you do a mess of that paradise, you basically go mad in power, destroy everything around you, and then ultimately destroy yourself. All for that saint to think, well, that was a wasted couple of years, or wasted time for me. Where's the gasoline? I need to set everything on fire and start again. In a way, it makes a parallel with what happened in the book Lord of the Flies. And in another way, it shows that the album comes full circle. You have to listen to it twice, because what you are experiencing in there, it's a paradise that was already destroyed previously, and you are going to destroy it yet again. And then Saint Obsession is actually quite frustrated with how humanity does the same mistakes over and over and over again, to the point that he no longer has gasoline to set things on fire and start again. Makes you think. So it is a brilliant CD. It is more literary than I was expecting this time around. It was much more complex to understand it fully. I was honestly listening to the songs as I was playing it for the very first time, and I did not know what the CD was about until I got to Kazahana and Hae no, and it took me quite a while in those songs to actually fully understand that the story that was happening in there. First, you were the protagonist, and second, there was someone else in this story. You could tell by the way that the lyrics were being performed and the way the character was being addressed. So there was someone else, and actually there was. You go to the hidden track and Saint Obsession is waiting for you. Actually not waiting, looking for gasoline to set you on fire. Literally. Or to set on fire the things that you left behind, depending on the choice that you made in Mirrors. So this is a really literary and complex CD. I love it a whole lot. I believe it will be quite niche even among Soma Saito's fans, and it may not click with anyone outside the fandom. I believe Mirrors is clicking because the music video is a bit different this time around. It's black and white, and it is more focused on the emotions and letting the setting convey those emotions. It's much like the song. The guitar is conveying most of the emotions that Saito is not conveying in his voice. So it is a show not tell type of music video and a show not tell type of song, and it is so unique on the vocal end that I believe it's also clicking with many people because Saito is singing in full head voice for the wide majority of the song. I dare say 19% of the song is performed in full head voice, whisper style, which is impossible for many seiyuu to pull off. The only seiyuu that could actually pull off something like this would be Toshiki Toyonaga. No one else, really. It's really tricky how Soma Saito has honed these skills as a whisper style of singer, but also how good he has turned into as a head voice type of performer. Head voice requires a lot of strength and a lot, I would say, a good pair of lungs and for you to actually be able to have that much air controlled throughout the performance. So it's not easy. It's a really tricky technique that not many singers, professional singers, know how to do or even to pull off. And Saito has made it his staple now alongside his whisper style of singing. So he's doing the best he can with his tenor range that is insanely high. As you can know by the performance in Mirrors, it goes really insanely high in the intro. It is ridiculous, and he's actually not putting that much effort into singing that high. He is barely opening his mouth for that voice to be there. It's actually quite impressive what he pulled off on the vocal end. And even if the story in this CD doesn't click with you necessarily, it's good to see that rock is being more present than ever. This is a rockier style of EP, although you do have rock as well in My Beautiful Valentine. This one felt more rock than the previous one. And of course, this is one that is quite complex to understand, but it is understandable that it is this complex. The theme itself is not easy, and this time around it's quite philosophical, and even with a little bit of sociology in the mix, will have to put you in a place that you have to stop and think and assess the choices that were made by the character, and the choices that you would make in that situation will affect how you approach Mirrors. In a way, even if you do not pay that much attention to the songs or the concept itself, when you arrive at Mirrors, that song will for sure hit you like a truck. Regardless if you have listen to the rest of the CD or not. The way that Saito is singing, his tone, how he is performing in full head voice, the guitars screaming. When he is not screaming at all, he is actually pretty calm throughout the whole performance. Actually sounds really cold throughout the performance, even if with a lot of passion in the way he is delivering his lines. So it is one of the best songs I've heard this year. Mirrors is actually, I will add it to my top 10 best songs ever by a male seiyuu artist. And it's really hard to rank where Yin Yang is in the ranking of best Soma Saito album. It's a brilliant album, but in a way I feel like My Beautiful Valentine was more brilliant, or since I've spent more time with My Beautiful Valentine, I will be partial to My Beautiful Valentine, I believe so. That is bound to happen, but still, this goes to show that he released 2 of the best CDs in 2022, and now I am in a pickle and I do not know which one to select as the number 1 CD of the year. Was there any question that he was going to be number 1 this year? Only if he had released something really, really weird. If you want to dive into the details of the story and the details on the composition and the performances, I welcome you to check the review that is in the description below. And of course, do look forward to any Soma Saito music coming forward, because he's only getting better with time, both as a performer as well as a singer-songwriter. The fact that I am this torn about 2 of his CDs, and I'm not even talking about any other CD released in 2022, already shows just how good his music was this year. It was something to make you think, and think with a purpose. It's a set or 2 stories really well told that make me want more, much more, perhaps even a book. Or something akin to that, but that's really, really, really awesome. And that's all from me about the best CDs of December 2022. Let's check your opinions. Now we have 2 comments in here, one by Sophie that says, Zenit by ZOOL. It explores some genres previously untouched by the group. It is exactly that. It is a collection of 4 songs that explore 4 different music genres. I wouldn't say 4 different music genres. 2 different music genres, and revisits 2 music genres that the group has already explored before. Rap and rock is something that is part of their repertoire since their debut, and rock music, they have been touching upon it quite frequently in the past couple of releases. The only different things in this CD arrive with Insomnia because of R&B and new disco, and Riding that arrives with a funk disco sound, which is a first for the group. But as Sophie said, do check ZOOL's Zenit. I've already talked extensively about this CD in this episode, so I'm not going to repeat myself, but I will repeat this. Do check the CD if you can. It's available for free on Spotify. You do not even need an account to listen to that CD. So thank you very much for your comment. And then we have a comment by Anna that is about Soma Saito's Yin Yang. And Anna says, the songs were all unique. They all have its charm and sense of peculiarness. Rakuen is great as an opening gate for this EP. Space Trip somehow has the same beat as Summerholic, but it sounds so adventurous, asking us to walk along just like in Derashine. Just a perfect song for a trip and picnic. Enigma Game sounds so musical to me, and somehow I imagine it as a musical show in circus with dancing. Oh, please no. Kazahana sounds like another side of Palette with the piano that sounds like crying. Also, the drums were quite weird at the first listening, but it won't sound like that later. The guitar outro was truly awesome. Hayano is by far the most rock song from Soma, and I almost don't believe this song represents Yin. But Soma loves contradictions, and the lyrics seem to be the dark ones. However, it took me many listens to actually realize the song sounds like struggling for a life. And now, Mirrors, the lead track for this EP, represents Ying, but there's still Yang element in this song. The moment I heard this song, there's this heavy feeling in my heart that is hard to explain. Yeah. As he sings Kanashimi, right at that moment too, my heart hurts. Peculiarly, the guitar is definitely a shining star here. It screams a lot, just like Uzumibi. The music screams instead of his voice. The brief silence between the guitar scream and the drums hit in the last chorus was so emotional. And finally, the outro. The structure is similar to Palette, but it feels so different. For Obsession, I haven't heard the song because my copy hasn't arrived until now. It will, I hope so. When you talk about... let me check your comment with more attention. Mirrors feels like it leaves you an empty void in your heart. It does feel like that. I've talked about this song in a way signifying death. It is a void, it leaves a void, it is all about emptiness. It is a wide soundscape, but it is empty. And you are screaming your last, or your very last time in that song. And the guitar does so for Soma Saito, of course. It is something that he does quite frequently. He did that in Uzumibi, he did that in Palette, he does that live for Isana. It is something that he does a whole lot. When the song gets really emotional and the song gets really personal, the song will scream. And that is a good example of a song that screams more than the vocals do, because some things are better left unsaid. And Saito is more about show, not tell, and he leaves you a space for you to fill in the gaps, and he does so in this song, so you have that as well. About the rest of the CD, I would say that there is not necessarily a yin and a yang side, although he has split the CD into two. Both sides are yin and yang, but with different measures of yin and yang. That's why you have decisions being taken, not necessarily bad decisions, but they end up having bad repercussions, and then you have good intentions that turn into bad things. So you do have a little bit of yin yang, and in both sides of the CD, all songs have a yin and a yang side, and you can't really separate that from those songs. It is part of those. It is part of that story. You have good and bad parts, and you can't get away from both or any of them specifically. In a way, you could say that Space Trip is similar to Naisho Banashi from the My Beautiful Valentine EP, but not necessarily Derashine or even Summerholic. But still, it's a song that has a little bit of a jolly vibe, and I can understand why you associate that song with those two songs. But in a way, I feel like Space Trip is nothing alike what he has released before, and it is its own song, not like many people are saying that Mirrors has a similar vibe to Isana because of the soundscape. You do have a lot of focus in the cinematic elements, having the whale in Isana, and now having people in the background in Mirrors, or even saying that Kazahana feels like Palette. It does, but in this way, Space Trip is a song that is unique in Soma Saito's repertoire. It's not necessarily similar to anything, and if you had to talk about similarities, I would say Naisho Banashi is closer in tone than Derashine or even Summerholic. Summerholic is actually one of my least favorite songs of his, alongside Fish Story. I really can't listen to Fish Story at all. And Summerholic depends on the days. It works better live than on a CD. Live I do not skip it, on a CD I skip it immediately. Although I did enjoy it in some way when it was released. But I feel like this CD actually has touched you, Anna, in a way. I can feel that the CD has in some way moved you. So I hope first that this CD hasn't messed you up and that you are okay mentally. And then that the CD serves as a way for you to experience a story of another character. In this case, Saito actually makes you the main character. But in this way you have the power to choose what you want as the outcome in mirrors. If you want to quiet the voice or if you want to move on. Regardless of Saint Obsession. So that's a different thing. So thank you very much for your comment, Anna. Time to talk about Monthly Choice, the corner in which I suggest you songs to listen to, because I have been listening to those non-stop and I want you to actually go and check them out if you can. So I've got my list in here. Actually, it is a much longer list, but I'm going to keep it simple because otherwise this episode would never stop. The first choice is Morihito and Soshi's Panorama. I recently reviewed this song for the Review Advent Calendar series that is on this channel, so if you do have the time, I will link it somewhere. You will see a card in this video. You have the full playlist with 25 songs reviewed. There's a special review in there. It was meant to be 24 songs in 24 days until Christmas, but there's a special Christmas song for you reviewed in there. So do check that playlist if you can. So I chose to review Morihito and Soshi's Panorama because I wasn't remembering how the song sounded, so I was curious to see how my first impression would go, because it's been a while since I last listened to that song, and I remember reviewing it with full marks, but I do not remember why I gave it full marks, because there's so much music to review that usually I do not return to much or many CDs or many artists as frequently as I wanted. And Panorama is a really awesome song. It is a semi-acoustic pop rock tune, much in the likes of what Sora has been doing, but it has the bonus of having a more condensed lineup and a lineup that is warmer in tone, which is to say they have really awesome baritone and bass vocals in there. It is Yuki Ono and Makoto Furukawa performing that song, and it is bloody amazing. So if you do have the time, why not check it, right? Then you have, I've talked about it right now, it's Soma Saito's Mirrors. And this is a song that you should check if you want to listen to what a full head voice is and what whisper style of singing can do with full head voice. It sounds like two things that will not work well together because of the airflow that you need to pull off each one of those, but Saito does know how to pull that off, or pull them off, and he does so in a fantastic way. So that's a really, really awesome entry. I've talked extensively in this episode about it, so I'm not going to extend further. So do check it if you can. Available on Spotify for free, and you do not need an account to listen to the CD. And then you have Mamoru Miyano's Dream On. I love this song since it was released. I love Mamoru Miyano's music when it is full-on R&B pop, and this one is a delight to listen to. I've recently reviewed The Entertainment, which is Miyano's 7th album. It is a really good one, especially the new songs left me wanting more. I've talked extensively in the last episode about that. But I've returned to Dream On because I love this song a whole lot since I listened to it, and it was a return to Mamoru Miyano's origins as a solo artist, performing R&B music, and I do love it a whole lot. There was one suggestion of a song to check. I will thank Anna for the suggestion. However, I will not present it to you because it is a female seiyuu song. I know nothing about female seiyuu music, so I can't even talk about it because I do not even know the artist or the work they have been doing. But nonetheless, thank you for the suggestion, Anna. And let's check the next corner. This episode is sponsored by all the Hand That Feeds HQ's patrons on Patreon. A big thank you for the support. The next corner is music in the horizon. And what do we have in the horizon? January 2023 is looking packed with music, however, nothing is really exciting for me in there. Aside from one or two Tsuki Pro releases and Tokyo Color Sonic that is wrapping up its second CD series, there is nothing more in there that is interesting. The only CD that I'm really looking forward to in January 2023 is Shunichi Toki's Glorious World. And that's all. The last time that Shunichi Toki released music for an anime series, it was awesome. So I'm really looking forward for him to pull off something equally amazing this time around. Let's see if it actually happens. I haven't checked any previews, as usual. So I'm really looking forward to that CD to arrive. And given that 2023 is going to start with a lot of music but nothing really exciting, I'm going to take my time, especially because there is no seiyuu digest in January 2023. It is a skippable month every 2 years. I'm going to focus a lot in reviewing music that I have in my backlog, and you will see some of the releases from 2022, perhaps even older, dropping during that month. So it's going to be a month for me to focus on previously released music, and the monthly review episode of January 2023 may as well be an episode all about the music that was released in 2022 that I haven't reviewed. It will depend on the quality of the music released in January, but I'm going to check most of the music in that month to see if there are any gems or any diamonds in the rough in the mix. So there's that. So the big CD that I'm going to say that I'm looking forward to in January 2023 is Shunichi Toki's Glorious World. And that's all from me in this Music in the Horizon corner. Time for the Ask Vanessa corner, and this time around there's no talk about Soma Saito, so please hold your horses. I've already talked plenty about him in this episode. I believe this is an almost Soma Saito centric episode. But this time around we have a question by Anna, and Anna says, I'm curious of your opinion about the newest ZOOL release. I've talked plenty about it. The title is Zenit and it has 4 new songs. The songs were all great and have their own uniqueness, so I want to know about your opinion of their new EP. Also, I'll be waiting for your review about Hatano Wataru's album Taurus, that includes No Man is an Island, that has lyrics written by Soma Saito. Thank you. So, double question in here. I've already talked about ZOOL's Zenit. You may already be knowledgeable about my opinion of this CD. Go listen to it if you haven't. In Anna's case, you have listened to it, so I want to know which is your favorite song in this CD and why. So leave that in the comments. I did enjoy that CD a whole lot. I've said it before. I've already talked extensively about it, so I'm going to skip talking about it again. I've already talked extensively about it, so I'm going to skip that. And I'm going to focus on Wataru Hatano's Taurus. Now, when I talk about concept albums, I talk about usually Makoto Furukawa and Soma Saito. They are the only two seiyuu artists that consistently release concept albums. You do have from time to time other artists trying it. Shunichi Toki is a good example of that. Daisuke Ono is another good example of that. But it's not really common among male seiyuu to do so. And in this case, Wataru Hatano tried the concept of Taurus, which is an infinite spiral of energy. It's a really maths-related concept. Right from the start, a concept that is not easy for me to grasp. However, I did read extensively about the concept behind the CD to see if I would find any of the the main characteristics in that CD. There are times in which you can feel the constant stream of energy, you can feel love consistently throughout the CD. However, if you tell someone or you ask someone to tell which is the concept of that CD, they will tell you love, care, passion. They will never say Taurus. It's not perceptible, the concept. It's not easy, it's not common, it's not perceptible at all. It's a really complex concept, and I feel like Wataru Hatano wanted to do something so fancy that he actually missed a bit the mark, because while there are concepts by Shunichi Toki about the adolescence or about the before times, and then you have concepts by Makoto Furukawa that touch a bit upon the human condition in some way, and you have in another way Soma Saito that talks about mental health or even melancholy and nostalgia. Those are easy to understand concepts, although they can be really complex in their execution. But then you arrive to Taurus and you have the opposite. The concept is so complex and the execution is so simple that you do not understand what the CD is really about. That's the idea that I got in here. The CD had more potential to further explore that concept, or more consistently explore that concept. I feel like there are some composers that worked on Wataru Hatano's songs that didn't know what they were writing about, because they missed the mark with the tone of the CD, and there were some arrangements that didn't make any sense. Vivid Junction being a really good example of that. The song was okay, exactly perfect for the concept, but got a different arrangement, only for us to further down the line in that CD get a song that has a similar tone to the original Vivid Junction. It felt weird in a way. No Man is an Island is a song written by Soma Saito. He didn't compose the song, he wrote the lyrics to it. And it has the focus on love and care, and it is a really weird song coming from someone that usually doesn't write about those themes, and especially not that openly about those themes, and especially not as straightforward as he wrote in this song. Of course, he was writing it for someone else, otherwise it would get really twisted if it was for himself. So I feel like the concept in there, it's a really good bridge with Breakers, for example. It fits really well in that specific place within that CD. That's one of the strongest parts in the CD. It comes off from a really good streak of songs, so it feels good. And it goes to show infinite love through the lyrics. It's a constant, consistent and cohesive stream of feelings in there. So it feels right, it sounds right. The lyrics are quite interesting. There are some words that could be said in different ways, and Saito chose to write those in English, for example. He could have used those in Japanese, but that's a stylistic approach in there of words that feel good to say and feel good to write, instead of just writing it plain. So everything has a meaning, and usually when he writes lyrics to someone, I welcome you to dive into those lyrics, because he actually spent some time into making sure they had meaning beyond the story they are telling. They have value for you to read without even the music alongside it. So that's that. I've wrote about this CD quite extensively, so the review is on the website. So I'll welcome you, as well as Anna, I welcome you to check the extended written review on the website. Is there. It's quite long. It is a concept that wasn't easy to grasp. I believe after listening to the CD several times, I still cannot find many songs that captured the concept. There are maybe 4 or 5 songs that have captured the concept. I do find it interesting that the intro and the outro to this CD are actually the same song, but played in reverse. It's quite interesting. I was not expecting that, but then again, I was finding it quite quirky why there were voices in the intro track, and then it made sense when we got to the outro, and I noticed that actually those voices are playing backwards in the outro. It's the same track as the intro, so that's the infinite loop. That was what made sense to me about the concept. That was a perfect intro and outro to wrap up a CD that should have been more consistent inside, and wasn't. It wasn't consistent, and it wasn't cohesive, which was a pity. Still, awesome performances in there in some songs, and interesting arrangements in others, unnecessary arrangements in others. Although the arrangements were good, nonetheless, I believe the originals would have made more sense within this CD. But still, that's a stylistic approach that was not for me to make, so I'm not going to talk about it further. But Taurus is an interesting CD, but easily missable within the last quarter of 2022 due to how unclear the concept is as you listen to that CD. So that's my big take on it, and the big reason why I didn't talk about it that much in the previous episode, which was the month in which it actually was released, November 2022. So thank you very much for your comment, Anna, and I believe, or at least I hope I have answered all your questions in there. And of course, thank you very much to everyone that has watched this episode, and if you have actually watched any of the previous episodes as well, thank you very much. This is a full year of episodes of monthly review. There's many more to come, and I hope you stick around for the coming episodes and join me as I talk about the biggest releases of every month, and even some oddballs that I review from time to time that do not fit any episode, but I want to talk about those, and I will eventually end up talking about those. I welcome you, as always, to participate either in the comments or every month when the survey is actually open, to leave your impressions about the CDs that were released and that you feel like you want to share something about those. Thank you very much to everyone that has participated in these 12 episodes. Thank you very much for following monthly review, if you have actually followed monthly review. If it is your very first time, there's a playlist somewhere in this episode, so do check it if you can. And I'll see you with more music to talk about in 2023. See you guys soon.